At the end of the day, we are humans, and that's what we're supposed to be selling for. You need to understand how humans think. Take the me out of media.
Hello and welcome to the Shiny New Object podcast. My name is Tom Ollerton. I'm the founder of Automated Creative, the creative effectiveness ad tech platform. And this is a weekly podcast about the future of data-driven marketing. Every week or so, I have the pleasure and the privilege of interviewing one of our industry's leaders about the future of the data-driven marketing industry. And this week is no different. I'm on a call with Nick Cedar. Am I saying that right, Nick? Have I got?
Yes. Nick Cedar, like the tree.
Nick Cedar, like the tree, who is manager media strategy and planning at SharkNinja. So, Nick, for anyone who doesn't know who you are and what you do, could you give us a quick?
Yeah, so I oversee media, all paid media with SharkNinja in Canada. So I'm in charge of everything, all the ads you see, the strategy behind it, really making sure that SharkNinja is being heard in the Canadian market.
Fantastic. Right, so let's jump into it. Right, I always give everyone a list of 10 questions, and you've chosen the weird one. I love this, right? So the weird one is, how do you want people to remember your career?
Yeah, I don't find this one to be a weird one because...
Sorry, it's the weird one out of the questions, not that you're weird.
Yeah. For me, what I want to be remembered as is I always came to the table with something compelling and a story. And that I was able to lead through the lens of humanity. I was very fortunate to be brought into this industry and taken under the wing of some big names in Canada. To me, I think I owe it to the industry to pass that on. So I always want to be remembered as someone who's always thought outside the box and was a true leader to the up-and-comers in this industry.
That is a beautiful way to start the podcast, because I've still got the horrible imposter syndrome that I shouldn't be here. Like the idea that I would take someone under my wing, I think, oh, poor thing. But you find the time and the spirit to do that. How do you justify taking someone under your wing who doesn't necessarily work for the organization?
Well, you always got to be careful with sensitivities, but as an industry as a whole, I'm very comfortable taking anybody under my wing and mentoring. Even just a quick chit chat. Hey, I've got some questions. Can we talk and talk about the industry? How, I really love when people reached out on LinkedIn and they're like, how did you break in? And what is some advice you have? And so I'm very open to it.
And do you find yourself, do you have lots of mentees, or is it do you have kind of a couple of people that you look after specifically?
Everywhere I go, I always make sure who's ever under my team, my entire team is under my wing. I always, for me doing a good job means my team is excelling and growing, not just necessarily what I've done as a leader. Because to me, my true success as a leader is my team was able to figure out the solution, and I was able to rally my team to get the job done.
Not tell them what to do. Brilliant. So what I'm looking for now is your best bit of data-driven marketing advice. So when you do have this lot under your wing and they're finding the solution for themselves, and you're bringing something compelling to the table, what is that one bit of data-driven marketing advice that you find yourself sharing most often?
No matter what idea you bring to the table, always play devil's advocate. That's number one. Even if I think my idea is the best out there, you always got to think of every angle, anything that can pop up. And I also think too, I always say don't just collect data. Translate it into something that creative teams could actually use to help solve your problem. If your insights can't be explained in one sticky sentence, then it's not a true insight. I think you need to, data should be a launchpad for ideas and not just a scorecard of what's happening.
Yeah, I interviewed a lady called Perla Bloom, she was at EA Sports and she's Expedia now, and she said something to me that has really changed the path of automated creative. Is that she said that unless your data is presented in a way that it inspires a creative idea, it's failed. Exactly. You cannot present a dashboard. You cannot present a list of bullet points, because no creative's going to go, yes, And that, that's what we really try and do as a business. Yes, of course, we've got data and dashboards and decks, but we always like to tell that as much of a story so someone can read it and go, are you kidding me? Right, okay, well, let's go and do this thing. Inspiration's what we're after, not just
exactly. And I feel we get really lost into those quick quick connections of, hey, we need to change this now before going after trends, really diving into the data, because we can get data that shows us, hey, this is what's happening right now, and we're going to pivot. But how do we know that that pivot's actually correct? If we're real time right now going hardcore without focusing on what the trend is, and how can we turn this data and everything coming at us into actual actions based on a trend and not just what you're seeing right hand, right, knee-jerk reactions.
So we're going to now talk about your shiny new object. And your shiny new object is audience-centric data storytelling. So I think I know what that is, but can you explain that? What is it, and why have you chosen it as your shiny new object?
Yeah, I mean, in marketing, we've never had more data than we do now. And, at the same time, we've got so much data, we've become even more confused by it. And it's often data is used like a report card. We look at it, after a campaign ends, well, we got an A here, or, C- there, what's next? But that's not where the magic really sits. The magic's where, when you treat data like a creative brief, not just what's the number, but what's the story this number is telling us about the audience. So like when I worked on a campaign where, all our top line metrics were looking great, click-through rates were okay, engagement was great, but still something felt off. We weren't getting total conversion. We were getting engagement, but conversion wasn't there. So we dug into the search queries. And, we looked at the social chatter, which is I'm a big fan of looking at the social chatter. Everyone's got an opinion. It's out on our socials. Let's look at them and use them to our benefit, because these are what people are saying. So what we did is when we found that people were responding to a different benefit than what we were actually leading with. And we saw this trend week over week happening. So we flipped the creative mid campaign to match exactly what they cared about. And then, suddenly the campaign wasn't just performing better. People were starting to talk about it. People were sharing it. People, it was becoming more viral, more socially accepted. Just because we saw that trend, we focused on it, and we turned it into an action, versus if we just looked at the numbers, we would have just been staying course because it looks like everything's going strong.
And so essentially what, I haven't got a good name for this, but one of the things that I've found in my research is that it's easy to go for all of the easy data, right? The stuff that just comes down the pipe. But it's the data that is harder to find, that it's richer, right? What you could have done is you could have, gone into people's homes and observed them using the range. But what you've done the step in between, which is social listening, right? You just either manually or someone automated that report, and you're like, they're talking about that. But you don't get that unless you're curious. You don't get that unless you're prepared to go the extra yard. If you don't try, if you don't look beyond the dashboard, then you're not going to get it.
Well, for me, it comes down to three things. Find the human in the numbers, because at the end of the day, metrics are clues to the emotions, but we're not selling to computers, we're selling to human beings.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Make the data, like I said earlier, creative friendly. So if it can't be summed up in one ticky thing, to that we can go back to one sticky sentence to it won't expire that great do
you mind, because that's such an important point for me, can we get into the how you do that, right? So you've got your Excel with all your data in it, you turn that into a dashboard, you work out, oh, right, okay, it's this, blah, blah, blah. And then you've got to get in a room with a creative who doesn't care about any of that stuff. And you talk about that one sticky idea that inspires a creative thought or action. How do you do that? You're an analytical person, but you need to talk to a creative person. How do you?
So the way you describe that, it sounds so siloed. I got to go talk to a creative person. My creative person has been in the room, this conversation this entire time, and we're working it out together. And I'm bringing up insights, and I go, hey, creatively, here's what I found. I found this, this, and this. But what I'm looking at is I think this is this. What's your opinion from a creative mind? And I've broken down that silo, and we work together on it. I believe in a full funnel approach to media. I believe in all our marketing communications should be unsiloed, and our entire plan should be working together. And creative people may not care about those metrics, so we don't speak to them in those type of metrics. You just get down to the juicy opinion. Hey, this is sucking. Here's where we're finding in media metrics. What are you finding? And work together as a team to come up with that creative solution.
So what's your advice for someone who's listening to this podcast and they're thinking, yeah, audience-centric, data storytelling, yeah, I'm totally on board with Nick, but we don't do it in our organization. How do you set it up?
Don't do it's just your first hurdle. You need to bring it up and build the business case as to why you should. The business, take the initiative to say, hey, I have a potential unlock here. I'm going to come to the business as why it matters to the business, what we can unlock, and how this can open up communication. And really, you need to build the point if you're not doing it, and you need to believe in it as well if you're going to sell it. It's what I believe. Some people might have different opinion, but I believe in the unsiloed approach. And when we work together as a team and everybody's at the table, at least representative. You don't want to have too many cooks, but a representative of each metrics, and you guys are working together, your campaigns are going to flow a lot better, and there's going to be a lot less mishaps. And you take accountability as a team, not just a single function. But to me, it'd be if you believe that as well, then take it back to your business and prove your case as to why.
And so, and how do you prove that case, right? Because I'm obviously on board. You don't need to convert me, but you have a siloed business, right? There's a head of creative or creative director over there, then there's a head of media over here, and there's an analytics and insights person over there, and whoever else in between. But if you've not done that before, what is the business case? Because you're very passionate about it, but numerically, how would you, and I love the way you phrase it, you say, I think I've spotted an unlock, and that's very powerful language. It's a great story in its own right. But I've spotted an unlock, and here's my data point. How can people arm themselves?
I would say you need to look at, one, where you're losing your conversion and where it's not working, or take a deep dive in the data you do have, and then take it to where you say the unlock, we're finding we're getting low engagement on our creative. Okay, then I'm going to go talk to the creative manager. Here's what I'm finding. And I think there's a bigger business case. Let's get all the heads at the table that we can talk to and really start, gathering your information of how, develop a case study for it. There's no real right way at the beginning to start it. I think you just have to start it. It's you have to take that initiative to say, hey, this is what I'm seeing in the data I have right now. If we work together on this project, I see this, and then I could see that maybe based on this, if we had changed our response to, say, we're going to change up to creative, I anticipate that we're going to have this much higher, we're going to improve this much on our click-through rates, or our conversion. Really coming in with numbers you can control, and then really coming to the table afterwards and doing a follow-up after you've done it. So you need to prove to the business, once you get them sold in, that I've developed a framework to come back to the business to tell you how much more this is unlocked when we're able to unlock these silos.
And what's the future of this space, do you think? So you've got this mixed skill set, representatives all sat around the table, the people we've discussed, and you're pulling in performance data from your campaigns, your behavior on websites, CRM, retailer, and so on. And you're pulling it all together, and you're creating a story, and you're getting the creative point of view. So you're operating, in my experience of certainly running automated creative, that is rare to have that. That's not common, but because you are ahead of the pack in that sense, what does even more excellence look like? Where could this go? Is there an AI version where a lot of this happens automatically, and what you're doing is spending more time doing the hard to find data research, the interviews, the qual?
I mean, there will be an element of AI, of course, always as that comes and develops. But I think you can't get lost in the human connection, in the human brainstorms, and the human gut feeling that you'll never find in any data we have. So bringing that conversation to the table, AI is going to help enable us to provide better and stronger data cases to bring back to the business. But I think you need to continue to still bring everyone to the table, have an honest discussion, no table, unlock those silos and bring it all together as one. Will that get it more efficient than it is now? Yes, 100%.
And so I think that it's really your point there about, really being able to listen outside of the data. Like, are there other non sort of tech skill sets that you think people should learn? Like, obviously listening is a huge way of doing it, but there's active listening, there's listening through, having an involved discussion, or just being passive. Like, do you find there's other social skills that are an important asset that you've seen within your teams?
To be honest, I think you need to at the end of the day, we are humans, and that's what we're supposed to be striving for, like I said earlier, right? So you need to understand how humans think and get yourself take the me out of media, we'll say.
Oh, Nick, I've never heard that.
You have to. That's a
I've never heard of that. Yeah. Let's have that one.
Take the me out of media, and who your target is. Really, you need to understand who and what they are, like what they live, breathe in. We got all this data, but who's to say that people aren't just randomly searching for random things, because we've got so many avenues to be searching for? Is that really a true passion point? And then we're going after somebody hard on retargeting, but really all we're doing is annoying them and not giving them a good brand experience. Right? So I think we need to really understand who, if we have created these targets, who and how they really shop, and not just based on some numbers. Like, you really need to psychologically think, like, get into the heads of who they are, and that's how you be a strong marketer. And you combine that with your data that you're getting. There's always a gut feeling. It's hard to explain, and until you're really in the industry, that there's a gut feeling that grows as you with your experience, and that data will help it, but there's always going to be that gut you need to follow as well.
Nick, unfortunately, I've run out of time. I feel we could talk about this for a very long time, and I really appreciate you sharing your experience, and a lot of that really chimes with mine. If someone wants to get in touch with you, where is the best place to do that, and what makes a message? What makes a message that you'll respond to?
Yeah, LinkedIn. And, honestly, any messages, I check all my messages. So what if you want to stop, say hi, you heard this, or you want to talk more about what I discussed today, or you've got a challenge, you want to have a little bit of a conversation on it, I'm open to that as well. But LinkedIn would be the best avenue.
Nick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.